What up, naughty steppers? It's your boy Connor Whitmore once again on the Nawtystep channel. And today I'm going to be talking to you about the new EP from Ivory, released on Never Say Die Records, Next Level. 23 years old, Paris-based, one of the most exciting up-and-coming producers to come out of the dubstep scene in a very long time. Slowly worked his way up over the last couple of years, collaborating with the likes of Monks, Murder, Emilian Wonk, Gannon, proper underground stuff. Releasing for Kinphonic and 193 before breaking into the mainstream with his remix of Spaghetti and Tasoki's track Jock for Never Say Die. And then onwards to Disciples' Roundtable sublabel with his track 93 Style featuring Virus Syndicate, which very much catapulted him into dubstep's superstardom in next to no time at all. And then the normal Disciple label with his feature on Dodge Fuski's album with the track Dog Eat Dog, and his track The Fight, which stands as one of my favourites of this year so far. A Battle of Destiny. Not to mention his single Animals under the Four Horsemen moniker alongside Graphite, E-Craze and Samplifier, a one-off collab that quite simply is a great coming together of producers on a similar wavelength. And now with his first full EP for Never Say Die, just under half a year in the making, and the undeniable next step for him to take in his career. Now off the bat there was something quite interesting to me about this EP before even having listened to it. Realising from the artwork that it would be a normal Never Say Die release as opposed to a black label one. Which, as I said, surprised me because I definitely associated his sound with grungier, more rhythm-inspired structures and not the modern BROSTEP sound common for a standard Never Say Die release. But he goes down that route across these 4 tracks, and all in all I would say it works for him in parts and others not. In adopting this approach, the majority of the drops on this EP have an interesting dynamic between grisly, earthy effects and more screechy ones, supplying an underlying filthiness whilst overlaying that with more high-pitched sounds in many different forms to give it a certain electric feel. This works really well in the title track, where he succeeds those initial blasts of sound with the blinding screechiness that brings the track back into focus. A compelling listen simply because those 2 brief sequences are isolated and are so different in sound and structure, yet sit very well beside each other. This carries on into the EP's first double drop, where Ivory unleashes a multitude of tearing, scything sounds, again bringing the screechy element in, seemingly to set them off. Or offset them, whatever floats your boat. As this song develops, I realise more and more how unusual it is to fit hard trap style synths into a dubstep format, but it works here. The screeches having more of a shimmering glow the second time around, with a few little touches added to the second double drop to give it that nice spice and variety. So it is very good in a way that Ivory made this track the title track, because it probably stands as the best representative of the EP in my opinion. There's a lot to it. An appropriate amount of layering and amalgamation of sounds that I wouldn't say is too present on the other 3 tracks in Next Level. In the opener, for example, Ivory brings a wealth of large sounds into the drop, through which alone you'd imagine he taps into that forceful delivery that he's become known for. But in all honesty, it just seems a little empty and bereft of the real punch that I think he desires. In its progression, I even feel like there's an extent to which there might be a lack of EQing between volumes of individual sounds. This is the case with the second drop, which goes for that muddy, contorted appearance, but doesn't quite sell itself enough as that. It's a bit too watered down. In partnering with Company, the third track, Dragon's Story, has probably the most uplifting and jovial drop of the lot, with those squeezy, Sultan-esque notes certainly making their presence felt, a slightly comical direction for the EP to be taken in. Yet still with that ravenous undertone, proceeding once again to become a little flat. I get the intention entirely, but I just don't feel the might of these sounds in unison. Having said that, I do really enjoy the brief squelchy sounds and the growls to introduce the double drops. They help to tell the Dragon story very well. Lest I move onwards from the drops before discussing the track Vengeance, which introduces us to an insane demonic vocal sample backed with impactful kicks to inform us that It honestly verges on the epic. The suspense of it, hairs fully raised on my neck, but the drop, for me, it's just way too light for what precedes it. He sets us up for an absolutely monstrous drop to bring this vocal sample further into realisation, and whilst it is a good idea, it's just too delicate, all things considered. Having said this, there are some definite redeeming factors with this drop as it evolves over time. The whop sounds between drops are very nice, especially in their marshy design. That's what I mean. I also really like the more staggered approach it takes as it goes on, becoming more headbang worthy as a result. And taking the changes it goes through into account, including the jumpy acidic vibe of the second drop, I'm left admiring the diversity on show here rather than the lack of intensity provided by the first drop. It never quite smacks me in the face, but finishing the EP with a track so willing to keep things fresh is very admirable. He could have started with this song to lure the listeners in. But I feel he does this enough with his vocal sample usage in every track, an aspect of the EP that has a real pizzazz to it. I've discussed the subjugation one from the final track already, but there's another one from that tune that I found particularly noteworthy when it says, "This is just the beginning," which obviously ties into the tale being told by the other vocal samples in this track, but which I also found to have resonance with Ivory's position in the dubstep sphere today. He's warning people that he's ready to have a big say in the dubstep game for years to come, no matter how his stuff might fare in these early stages. Working backwards, I really enjoyed the sample from Dragon Story, which says it needs just one bite to kill. Certainly vivid. And the Take It to the Next Level sample from the second track, which, as mentioned, very much encapsulates the feel of the EP as the title song. Lastly, the Fuck That sample before the first drop of the EP and whenever it returns. I mean, that one just speaks for itself, really. In conjunction, I would say it is the vocal samples and the drops that give this EP its essence, but there are a few other snippets that I really like here. Firstly, the short-lived flickering midsection in Stay with those wavy notes and interjecting flute, very pretty indeed. The introduction to the title track, bringing together those horns and thrilling strings before the seamless transition into the main drop. I also really like how the vocal sample in that track is manipulated upwards before the double drops, very small touch but important for giving the track that out of control feel. The exasperated "oh my god" samples from Dragon Story in the middle of the drop sequences, those are moments of pure terror, has to be said. And the final vocal sample of the EP, in Vengeance, where this dark overlord mutters, "It is done, he's ours." Chilling and effective. Fundamentally though, the drops are the aspect at the forefront of this EP, repeatedly reaching for that terrifying appeal, which I'm not sure it quite gets to in any of these tracks. He sees this as significantly better than any project that he's released in the past, but there's no moment where I'm truly frightened like I am when listening to The Fight, which I discussed earlier. That ability he has to really hold you in his grip through the colossal nature of his sounds, there's just next to no evidence of that across these 4 songs. As a side note, it's actually quite interesting that he involved Company in this EP, because their sounds bear a likeness in that respect. His Revolt EP is a seizing one, that's for sure. I read in a UKF interview with Ivory that he was working to a deadline with this EP and that he remembers past times being freer and more fun. Does he need that back? Because in a way, some of the ideas here do seem rushed, loosely constructed, slightly tepid. I say these things knowing that he is capable of way better. And on that note, even though I may not like this EP as much as some of his past stuff, I am very excited for Ivory going forward. He's onto something, he just needs a little more time rounding his ideas and managing his creation. He also seems like a very honest, genuine, sure of himself person, and that alone will see him go very far in what can be quite a cutthroat business. Producers like him coming through the ranks to remind us all of how much incredible talent lies under the surface are very important for the scene generally. I am full of hope for him. Now, in terms of a favourite track from this EP, then I think I would have to go for the title track, Next Level. I was talking earlier about the drops being the aspect of this EP most at the forefront of it, and for me this track has the best dubstep to it, and so constitutes as the best representation of his style across these 4 tracks. And in terms of a recommendation, if you enjoyed this EP, then I would look at the likes of Company, as previously mentioned, Crimer, Dr. Ozzy, Spaghetti, Algo, to name but a few. And so, Naughty Steppers, that is that for another review on the Nawtystep channel, this time of Ivory's new EP released on Never Say Die Records, entitled Next Level. Thank you very much, and as always, for tuning in. What did you guys make of Next Level? Did you enjoy it? Was it what you expected? Let me know in the comments below. If you did enjoy this video, then be sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, hitting that notification bell along the way so you can be notified whenever I upload to the Nawtystep channel. Next to my head there should be a link to some other Never Say Die reviews on this channel if you enjoyed this one. And lastly, don't forget to like and follow Nawtystep across all social media if you haven't already. With everything linked, including recommendations, in the description box down below. And lastly, and as ever, if it's naughty, then you know guys, so be sure as always to keep it naughty and stay safe. And I shall see you all in the next one. Peace out.